Hello everyone, I'm Jose and welcome to our channel, We Love Saltwater. Today I want to talk about anchors and give you some tips on how to properly set them up and deploy and retrieve your anchor. Okay, I've used many anchors in the past. I've used fluke anchors, wedge anchors, and mushroom anchors. However, my favorite type of anchors to use, I have two types. I've got the grapple anchor, which I actually use as a backup anchor in case I lose my primary anchor, and I also use the grapple as a secondary anchor at the sandbar. My preferred anchor is called the Bruce or a claw anchor. And I'm gonna show you guys how to properly set this up in order to deploy it and retrieve it successfully every time you go out on the water. Right, the first thing you wanna do when you purchase your anchor, you wanna go ahead and purchase some chain. It's very important for you to have this chain. This particular chain that I recommend is 1/4 inch diameter. You also want to make sure to get yourself a stainless steel marine shackle and also stainless steel marine clamps. Now let me go ahead and show you guys how to properly set these anchors up. I'm going to start off with my secondary anchor. Right, this anchor here is the grapple anchor. I kind of like it because it stores easily in your compartment if you have a small boat. By the way, both of these anchors will work for a boat up to 19 feet. We typically use these anchors anywhere from the sandbar all the way up to 150 to 180 feet of water. Now keep in mind that what we have is a 16-foot skiff. For you guys that think that you cannot go out in deep water and fish, you're wrong. You could. You just have to watch the weather, make sure the wind is down and the conditions are good. Now let me go ahead and show you guys how to set this anchor up properly. Right, the first thing you want to do is you want to get yourself approximately 24 inches of rope. This particular rope is 3/8 inch thick. You want to tie a knot on one end down here and another knot on this end. Now it's very important that you guys tie this like this and not go directly to the anchor, and I'll show you why later on. Now like I said, you got to get yourself a chain. You want to get yourself a stainless steel shackle. Right, the way to properly set this up is after you've got your rope set up, you go ahead and put your shackle on. Right, and going back to the chain, typically you want to have 1 foot of chain for every foot of the length of your boat. However, an example, my boat is 16 feet. I do not carry around 16 feet of chain. First of all, I don't have that much storage, and many boats that size don't have much storage. This particular chain is 4 feet long, and I've been using this particular anchor and chain for about 3 years now. Never had a problem with it. Now let me show you why it's so important to set this anchor up this way. Follow me. Right, when you deploy this anchor, that you drop it, it's going to go down to the bottom, right? And the reason why you want to have this chain is this chain will help weigh down this anchor in that way. And let's say the anchor gets caught up on the bottom on a rock or something similar. The chain will help the rope not get frayed by rubbing back and forth on the bottom on a rock or whatever may be down there. This anchor works pretty good. However, when the current's a little strong, it tends to pop off. That's why I have it as a secondary anchor, and I also use it at the sandbar. Now, the reason why you want to have this particular rope here is when you're getting ready to retrieve your anchor, what you want to do is you want to put some tension on that line and put your boat in gear and start moving forward. What's going to happen is as you start picking up the rope, let's say this anchor gets stuck and you don't have this, you're tied directly to it, it's not going to budge. Now, as you start moving your boat forward and your anchor stuck, this is going to slip towards the front of the anchor. It's going to pull up like that. That'll release the anchor. That's why it's so important to have this rope. Now let me show you my preferred anchor. Right, another word of advice is to always have spare spring clamps and spare shackles. I always have this container on my boat It's got zip ties, and I'll show you how very important it is to have zip ties. I also keep the spare spring clamps. Can you get a close-up of this so I can see what it is? All right, you have to make sure it's marine grade and it's stainless steel. This particular one is 5/16 of an inch. I always keep spares in here. Right now, this is my preferred anchor. The reason why I say this is my preferred anchor, it never fails. It has gotten stuck, but with the method that I'm going to show you with the zip ties, it easily comes off. Now, the way to properly set up this anchor is, a lot of people would think that you want to attach your chain to this side of the anchor. That's incorrect. Sometimes these anchors come without this hole. This particular one came without the hole. I drilled the hole. Now, the way to properly set up this anchor is, I'm going to go ahead and use the 4-foot chain. This is actually my spare chain. It's only 3 feet. Like I said, I've never had to use the spare anchor whenever I use this one as a primary. Okay, the way to properly set up this anchor is, you don't put it to the back of the anchor. You put your shackle in the front hole. In this particular case is the hole that I drilled. Now you want to make sure that this screw is on tight. I always keep a wrench with me. Tighten that up. And once you know that it's nice and tight, what you want to do is, at this point, you want to grab yourself a zip tie. Okay, this is your regular electrical zip ties. Not too heavy, not too light. You don't want it too light, you don't want it to snap. Now, the reason why you use the zip tie, the way you do it is, you stretch out your chain, you put the zip tie through the chain and through the back hole. Okay, the reason why you do this is when you drop your anchor, it'll help the chain stay flat on the ground. Again, I'll give you guys a demonstration. As it's on the bottom, your boat is going to always drift towards the back. So this will eventually get caught. See, it's immediately getting caught there. Now, this particular anchor, it doesn't have to land upright in order to work properly. It could land sideways. You can see it's got some wedges. It'll always grab on. This works when you're anchoring on sand, on a grassy bottom, and even over reefs or wrecks. Now, I'll explain to you the reason why you use the zip tie. Let's say this anchor were to get wedged on something in the water, maybe a reef or a piece of steel, maybe even a wire. The purpose of this zip tie is, when you start pulling and it won't release, you put your boat in gear. Now let me grab the snips to show you guys what it does. Yeah, obviously you're not going to dive in the water with a pair of snips and cut the zip tie. But the main reason for the zip tie is, when you put your boat in gear and your line starts getting tense, you also want to keep an eye on your anchor line. You want to make sure that it's going straight down. When your anchor line is going straight down, that means that your anchor is directly below you. What's going to happen is, it's going to start making tension on this zip tie here to the point where it breaks. Now the zip tie has broken, so now instead of the anchor pulling from the back, it's going to pull from the front and it will release. That's the reason why you use that zip tie. Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about was your anchor line. Technically, you're supposed to have 5 foot of rope for every foot of depth where you're going to be anchoring. However, you can get away with a lot less, especially if you have the right amount of chain. Think about it. If you're going to anchor down in 100 feet of water, you're going to need 500 feet of rope. That's a lot of storage space. We typically carry 300 feet of rope on our boat, and it's always been enough. And like I said, we typically, the most we've anchored in has been 180 feet of water. If you're going out to 300-400 feet of water, you do not want to anchor down, because that's that much rope that you're going to have to be bringing up. If you're going to be going out deeper than that, you just want to drift. Now, the way that I like to set up my ropes is, I like to put the spring clamp on the chain side of it. The anchor ropes comes with a preset ring. I attach this ring on, and I let the rope out. You also want to have your ropes rolled up correctly in order for it to deploy. Now, when it gets to the end of the rope, if I do need additional rope, I always have my spring clamp prepared on the other side of the line, and I just want to continue the same process. I want to attach this to the next rope and let it out, and so forth and so on. So guys, I spoke about earlier about the secondary anchor at the sandbar. Um, when you're at the sandbar and you're planning on spending a lot of time there, your boat tends to move with the tide. Now, in order to take advantage of your bimini top or your T-top to the best, to allow to get the most shade, I use 2 anchors. When I first get there, I look at the sun, see what position it's going in, and I'll put my primary anchor on the bow, and then I'll get a second rope, which at this point I don't use these long ropes. I have the dock ropes, which are approximately 15 feet long. I'll use this secondary anchor to anchor down the stern. This stops the boat from swinging around with the tides. So guys, like I mentioned earlier, these anchors will work up to a 19-foot boat. I forgot to mention, this happens to be a 5-pound anchor. It's actually exactly 4.4 pounds. Very important to have your chain. The chain helps you keep your anchor down. Spare parts. So guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed, and stay tuned for some more tips on boating. Thank you for watching.